What is going on, everybody? ZyoniK here, and in today's video, we're using a really strong Great League team that you guys can try out. Trevenant, Bastiodon, and Drapion there. Drapion is the safe swap, and I love Drapion safe swaps on a lot of different teams. It's so flexible and viable in the Great League meta, and Trevenant and Bastiodon is just a really strong core. If you guys don't have Bastiodon, maybe try Galarian Stunfisk or Registeel. Alright, getting into the first battle, we have Trevenant on the lead versus Noctowl. Okay, this is like worst case scenario. We're going to go ahead and swap into Drapion and start getting ahead on energy. Now, notice how they're not swapping in just yet. This tells me that maybe the backline is kind of weak to them. I'm going to go ahead and let the Sky Attack go through, because the longer I can keep Noctowl here on the field, the easier it is going to be aligning Bastiodon to the Noctowl later on. Now, they do decide to swap in a Swampert, which I thought was kind of interesting that they maybe didn't bring that in right away. Granted, Crunch still does a lot of damage, so I would have been able to force shield advantage for myself, but we're going to go ahead and let this charge move go through, as it is just going to be the Hydro Cannon that's going to take us down. We're going to come in with Trevenant right away and look to go for the Seed Bomb instantly. Why? My switch clock is back up and theirs is not. And if they bring in Noctowl, which they did, it is now locked in. It cannot swap out. And this is why when I noticed that they decided to stay in against Drapion, go for the Sky Attack, this was an opportunity for me to flip this game around, because they wouldn't be able to switch out until later on. Now, once again, the switch clock, it has the same distance as before, nearly. So what we can do here is safely go for a Flamethrower against Registeel. We're just going to go ahead and no shield everything. I can come in with Trevenant and kind of close this game out, so I'm actually going to go ahead and let this go through, but it's actually a Zap Cannon, which I thought was interesting. Maybe they thought I was going to shield that and they were trying to fish for the debuff, but ultimately we are sitting very good right here, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw this Flamethrower, and now I will go ahead and switch back into Trevenant, because keeping Bastiodon alive with 2 shields is going to be able to take out the Noctowl that is very low. We're also going to be resisting those charge moves right there, unless it was Flash Cannon, but it most likely isn't. Now, they decide to come back, well, they have to come back in with Noctowl, but ultimately this is game over, so they will be no shielding the charge move. So what I think happened there is just some slight mistakes by my opponent, which is going to happen. When you're in Go Battle League, your opponent and you will make mistakes sometimes, and you have to capitalize on that. All right, moving to the next game. We have Sableye on the lead, so once again, we're going into Drapion safe swap, and they bring in an Azumarill. And I thought this was very interesting. This is why I love having Sludge Bomb, is for Charmer, or basically all fairy Pokemon, specifically Charmers. I really like booming Charmers. It's very satisfying. I don't know why, but we're just going to go ahead and shield this charge move, and now overload on energy, because it was a Hydro Pump. So they're trying to sneak that through right there, thinking maybe I'd no shield the Ice Beam or Play Rough. But ultimately, we're sitting very good. So we're going to go ahead and throw that Crunch. They decide to let it go, which now allows us to farm down. We have successfully taken Switch Advantage. Let's see what their third Pokemon is going to be. It is going to be an Alolan Ninetales, which makes sense why they came in with Azumarill, because Azumarill had a little bit better matchup in terms of the Play Rough and bulk, but now we have alignment and we have basically shield advantage now, because I'm going to be able to throw this next Sludge Bomb here, which they decide to let go. I'm like, all right, well, this is game over. I have a Bastiodon waiting in the back, so we'll go ahead and no shield. And Drapion safe swap, if they don't have a direct hard counter to it, it is so flexible in the mid game, and with the polarity that we have with a Bastiodon and a Trevenant, having that flexibility is very key. And as you guys can see in some of these matchups, we're able to flip these mid games because of that. So we can safely just go ahead and no shield everything right here. Foul play isn't going to do too much damage. And granted, my Bastiodon is not an XL one. This is one I made back in 2019 from a Lucky Trade. And back then, XL Pokemon were not a thing. Level 40 was max, so a Lucky Trade high rank, or near high rank PvP IV, I was like, I'll take the Stardust savings, which is why you guys see the IVs the way they are. So we're going to go ahead and stop that foul play. Go for the Seed Bomb right here. This is going to do almost enough neutral damage to take out Sableye. And then we should be able to farm down with Shadow Claw, and that is going to be a good game, very well played. All right, moving into the next one, we have Trevenant on the lead versus Azumarill. Okay, very positive matchup here for us. We still need to be a little concerned about Ice Beam, but they decide to swap into Skarmory, and I'm like, you know what? I think the meta hasn't respected Bastiodon enough. I know a lot of players out there love using it. It is a fantastic Pokemon in Great League because of how polarizing its matchups can be. Yes, you get destroyed by like a Medicham, for example, right? But flyers get destroyed by the Bastiodon, which is what it's built for. So what we can safely do here is no shield everything, as these are just Brave Birds. And we can farm down. Now what I'm actually going to do is stop attacking right here because I want my switch clock to come back up after I use a charge move. That's very key. This is why they went for Sky Attack, is so that I kill them faster so they can dance around the switch clock. But ultimately, as you guys can see, switch clock is now back up. Azumarill is coming back in, and this is what we're going to do here. I'm reading they might have 2 flyers in the back, so I'm going to swap into Drapion. And sure enough, there was a Talonflame back there. If a Pokemon like Altaria or Noctowl, or maybe not always Noctowl, but Altaria and Skarmory, if they get safe swapped in by the opponent, it is the biggest tell that they have a double flyer backline. Now, traditionally, Noctowl is going to be the better safe swap because of its moveset, but in this case, seeing the Skarmory safe swapped in, I'm like, I have to keep Bastiodon alive so that I can smack down the second flyer that is likely back there. In this case, it is going to be Talonflame. So we're just going to go ahead, let the switch clock go back down, make sure we maintain this positive advantage right here. We're going to come in with Bastiodon and just do smackdown damage. I'm going to go ahead and no-shield everything. I still have an Azumarill to take down with Trevenant, so we should be okay. They decide to swap out, so I'm going to go ahead and swap into Trevenant now. We have a 2-to-1 shield advantage, and this is looking very good for us. So I think ultimately right here with this game, the read was that Skarmory safe swap and then swapping into Drapion. So I lost switch advantage by doing that, but ultimately I baited out that second flyer so that Bastiodon could finish it off later. So that's going to be a good game. We're just going to go ahead and go for these seed bombs right here. And then I think we'll have to throw a Seed Bomb now versus the Talonflame in order to close this game out, because I will have to shield this next charge move. I really don't want I don't want to risk it with Bastiodon being so low, so it's safer just to shield and then throw the Seed Bomb now versus Talonflame because it is so low. So that's going to be a good game, very well played, but ultimately I basically checkmated my opponent by doing that swap the way I did. All right, moving into the next one. We have Trevenant versus Medicham on the lead. Okay, another positive lead right here. Let's see what they decide to swap into. They're going to go ahead and go into Walrein. So what I'm going to do here is go for a Seed Bomb first, and then we're going to swap into the Bastiodon. This could get me shield advantage, which it does, and now Bastiodon can come in and do super effective damage with Smackdown. Now, Earthquake will hurt. It will hurt, but I think we can survive. So I'm going to let it go, and it was just an Icicle Spear. That is huge. That is absolutely huge. I'm not going to give them a shield now because I'm okay with losing switch advantage if my Drapion can load up on energy, and they went for back-to-back Icicle Spears. So that is looking very good. Unfortunately, maybe they didn't have Earthquake. I'm assuming they would, but maybe they were just hoping to try to get a shield from me, and I wasn't going to give it up. So we're just going to go ahead and look to go for as many flamethrowers as we can here versus Medicham, because unfortunately they're going to get a lot of energy from us. So this is another play for them, right? If they go for the baits trying to get shields, they can still come in and farm down with Medicham, and now they have Ice Punches for my Trevenant, which is going to be tough. And I can't necessarily come in with Drapion because I don't have any energy on it. So we're going to come in with the Trevenant. We're going to try to do as many Shadow Claws as we can because it is doing super effective damage. We'll have to give up shields here on this Ice Punch. And let's see if we can farm down. Nope, they do get to another one in time. So I'm going to go ahead and double shield. Now this is to maintain. Granted, I think I can survive that Ice Punch if I wanted to. But the final Pokemon is going to be Aurora. So I'm going to go ahead and go for Seed Bomb right here. And I think I can make it to a second Seed Bomb in time, but I decide instead to swap into Drapion to go for the Crunch right here. It's going to do a decent amount of neutral damage, and they are forced to throw energy. Now, they throw the Meteor Beam right there, which is a very cool animation. I love it, and I really need to get myself some more rare candy so I can power mine up. But we're going to go ahead, and they farm us down. Now, this is why I should have lost right there, and the reason why is if they played it a little bit better, they could have they could have potentially farmed me down for more energy, but ultimately on my end, I could have thrown back-to-back seed bombs and been perfectly fine. So that's my bad there, but you know, we all make mistakes. We're not perfect. All right, next game, we got Lantern on the lead. So again, another very positive lead for us. We see them swap into Sableye, so I'm going to come in with Drapion. Now, this is kind of a tough matchup. The reason why I'm coming in with Drapion is because I'm reading that they might be a flyer in the back, right? If you have a Lantern lead, it's going to be very weak to grass-type Pokemon, so it would make sense to pair it with something like a Noctowl. So I want to use the Drapion here to win this mid-game matchup against Sableye, and I'm going to be forced to shield the charge moves in order to stop a return. So we did already use one charge move right there. The next one coming through, we're going to have to give up a second shield here, and it was the return. So perfect. Now this is going to allow us to go for double crunches in order to take switch back, or maintain switch advantage, I should say. That way I can have Trevenant still aligned to the Lantern, and Bastiodon aligned to what I'm predicting being a flyer in the back. So we're just going to go ahead and go for these crunches right here. Just apply as many debuffs as we can, and hopefully we can get one, but that's okay. They're going to go ahead and go for the Surf. This should do enough damage to take us out, but I think they decide to undercharge it. No, barely. They get one more Spark through. That's fine. We're going to come in with Trevenant. Sure enough, there was a Noctowl in the back. So that just comes from team reading. Now, Bastiodon could have come into Sableye as well and still won that mid-game matchup, but I was reading that there could be a flyer because of Lantern lead, and that's something that you guys definitely want to do yourselves. Now, I think they either were lagging right there, or if granted, this game is a win for me. No matter what they do, it doesn't matter how many Shadow Balls they get to. But yeah, just reading the Lantern on the lead, and I saw the Sableye safe swap. I thought, you know what? There's probably going to be a flyer in the back. It may not have been Noctowl. It may have been a Skarmory, or it may have been Altaria. Altaria is another good pairing right there. So that's going to be a good game to my opponent right there. So ultimately, we had him checkmate, and that's why I invested so many shields on the Drapion to make sure I maintain that switch advantage. Okay. Moving into the next one, we have Trevenant on the lead versus Walrein. Okay, so I really don't like this lead matchup because of the Powder Snow Ice Cold Spear damage, so we're going to go ahead and swap out, and we draw out a Medicham. This is actually very, very good for us, because if this is the only counter to our Bastiodon is going to have a very good endgame. We also got the defense drop right there with Crunch. So this is actually a very good situation for us. They actually have Dynamic Punch though, which I thought was very interesting. I was expecting an Ice Punch to come through, and we go for the Sludge Bomb, and we both KO each other with fast moves right there. Okay, so this is a tough situation. I'm gonna come in with Bastiodon right at the last second, and they actually have an Alolan Ninetales in the back with Charm. Oh, Bastiodon's looking good right here. So we drew out the Medicham with our Drapion safe swap, which now gave Bastiodon full reign of this game. We're going to go ahead and swap into Trevenant now, back into the Walrein, because we do have a 2-to-1 shield advantage, and all we really need to do is land one Seed Bomb. So I'm going to go ahead and double shield right here and just throw Seed Bombs, because Bastiodon doesn't need any shields in order to beat the Alolan Ninetales in the back because of how polarizing its matchups are. So we're going to go ahead, double shield right here. There's no reason to risk it and come in with Bastiodon, try to farm down and maybe get hit by an Earthquake. It's like just double shield, go for the Seed Bomb, take out the Walrein, and then let Bastiodon close this game out in the no shield situation, because that is going to be a win. So that's going to be a good game, very well played to my opponent. Trevenant's actually going to try to take this game, but they decide to go for the charge move, which is fine. Bastiodon now is going to close this one out for us. So that game definitely came down to drawing out the Medicham in the back into that Drapion and forcing them to shield. So good game. All right, moving to the next one, we have Trevenant on the lead versus Alolan Ninetales. So another tough one. We're going to swap out right away into Drapion, and they do decide to swap in a Swampert right away. So we're going to go ahead and go for the Crunch. Now, this matchup, what I like to do is take it into the ones, because I will force a shield right here on this next Crunch, and they then can't farm me down with Mud Shot. So I'm going to go ahead and shield, and then I'm going to go for the crunch, and then they have to throw a hydro cannon in order to take me out, which is going to make them spend a bit more energy. They can't just land the hydro cannon and then farm me down. So we do get a shield and we get a defense drop. And now, even though they overloaded a bit on energy, which is fine, this is now going to allow my Trevenant to come in and have a pretty nice, safe farm down. Now, I need to be cautious about a potential sludge wave, but ultimately, we're going to let it go because I'm thinking, you know what, I think it's just going to be a hydro cannon right here, and it was. So we do resist that, and we farm down. Now, let's see what decides to come in. It is going to be the Alolan Ninetales, so we're going to go ahead and go straight for the Shadow Ball, apply that pressure, get that final shield if we can, and we get it. So now we're going to go into Bastiodon, and they instantly swap into their Trevenant, which is very good for us because we can easily win this matchup in the technically 0 shields right here because we can go for the Flamethrower right away, and Bastiodon's booming today, everyone. Boom! One-shots the Trevenant, and that is going to be a good game, very well played. All right, I think that was the final one. That was this team. So much fun to use. It's one of the top performing teams on PV Poke. Trevenant, Bastiodon, and Drapion. Just a very solid team. I think Drapion is still one of the best safe swaps in this meta. And Trevenant and Bastiodon are so polarizing that they work really well together, especially if you can flip matchups or you keep your switch advantage against the right opponent. So, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Again, if you guys don't, Trevenant's pretty much key, Drapion's key, but if you guys don't have Bastion, you could try Galarian Stunfisk or Registeel in those spots. Both of them do pretty well. So, hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and like always, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.